Looks like I might be streaming at this point. Let's see. I'm waiting for it to show up on my iPad. We'll see if that happens. It's funny, right when I started the stream, the tornado siren went off. For those of you not in the Midwest US, we have tornado sirens which go off anytime that there's a storm that's capable of dropping a tornado on us. You're supposed to run downstairs and save yourself from being killed by a little twister, as we call them. But anyway, it's funny that it went off today, because normally they go off on the first Monday of the month. Today is Tuesday, and it's like National Tornado Safety Day or something along those lines. But if you do hear it in the background, I'm not about to die. And I'm also in the basement, in a corner of my basement, far away from the windows in the basement, so I'd be safe that way too. Anyway, I think this is started now. Let me make sure the audio's good. Yes. All right. So last week on this migration, welcome. I'm Jeff Geerling. This is the live stream of a Drupal 7 to 8 migration of jeffgeerling.com. And in the first few weeks, we've set up an environment and started working on the migration with the Drupal 7 to 8 upgrade using the migrate upgrade module. And we ran into a few speed bumps, as you do with any kind of Drupal project. Last week we had a special speed bump in that we tried using GitHub Actions, and then GitHub went down in the middle of the live stream. So that was annoying. Hopefully that doesn't happen today. Funny enough, today all the stock market volatility that's going on because of coronavirus or COVID-19 or whatever has brought down a bunch of other types of sites that I've been using to check on things, and hopefully that doesn't happen today, because that was annoying. It kind of messed things up last week, but there's still plenty of work to do otherwise. One of the things that I've been, that I did between last week and now is I just kept rerunning the migration process to see what would happen, just because the migration process takes a long time. And for a live stream, you don't want something sitting there happening for a long, long time that, you know, there's nothing to do during it. So last time I ran it, there were a couple new issues. I'm still seeing this issue a few times, and I think this might have to do with like when it runs into a node or a block or something without a field, it spits out this error. It's hard to tell what that's from though. It doesn't say like, oh, on item number 2000 of 2004, it hit this error. It just says, here's an error message. So we'll have to take a look and see what's going on there. Also, there's this thing about the color box plugin. I don't know exactly what that's from. It looks like it's from a comment. I don't know. So I might have to look into these issues. Text formatter list. So there's a couple things. It looks like field formatter settings. I don't know if that's going to cause a major issue, but it did hit a failure, so it stopped the migration at that point. It does look like it migrated a lot of things. It migrated all the files, and I could tell because my internet connection all of a sudden was going like 10 megabytes per second for a while, downloading all those. And it looks like it also migrated blog posts, which are the most important thing on my site because that's the majority of the content. It migrated projects. And one thing that I want to do is make sure that this number is correct. So 2,860 blog posts, make sure that that's how many are on the existing site and that's how many are coming over. Because one thing that makes me a little scared about this error message is the fact that this means something went wrong somewhere, but I don't know if that means it silently ignored something or if there's an actual error, or if this is just an error that I can ignore. So it's annoying to see those error messages, and I'll have to dig into those later. But I just wanted to mention that I kept rerunning the migration just to see what would happen. And then after this last migration run, I ran a config export, and now there's a bunch of new content types and fields, image styles, photo embed, and project thumbnail. There's another content type, some more fields and things. So I exported that configuration, and it dumped a bunch of new configuration into the config sync directory. I'm also going to drop a comment here and just say, hopefully everyone can hear me, just so that I make sure I'm not talking into a void. It's always fun when you're talking for a while, like on the first episode, and you realize that nobody that's in the stream can see you because you chose to stream on the wrong stream. So here's all the new config that is loaded up once I run the migration, and I'm going to add those files. -m config export after running a migration. And I'm going to push that up to my site. So I have an issue open for this weird getting field discovery failed for Drupal core version 7 issue. And the next thing I'm going to tackle is this other error that we started getting. It looks like it was during the field formatter settings migration. So I'm going to run that migration alone. I think, let's see, where's that command? Migrate import. I'm going to say help, see what options I have available here. And note that for these commands, in the traditional way with drush is you could run drush migrate -import, and commands were like something -something. With drush 9, I think, maybe it was drush 10 that this was introduced, it uses a new kind of syntax. It's more standard across the PHP world because it uses the Symfony console component. But you can, instead of having like the module name dash what it's doing, you can say module name : import, and that it's the same kind of thing, but it's a different convention. But this is standard across a lot of different PHP projects, so it's kind of nice to have that. I just, by muscle memory, I type in a lot of dashes, and I also sometimes I use shortcuts, so you can also type in mi for migrate import, but I typically like to do it explicitly written out like this. So migrate import. So it looks like you can just put in the migration you want to run after that command. So I'm going to say migrate import, and oh, that is not correct. That is probably some generated password I used somewhere. So I'll have to delete that later. What was this migration that ran? Where is it? This one was upgrade D7 field formatter settings. There it is. Okay. And let's see if that works. And if it gives us an error message again, it didn't give us an error message, so that's a little slightly alarming to me because it had an error message before, right here. And the thing is that I don't care too much about this because I can't think of any content on my site that uses either color box or text format or list. I think in the old days I might have used color box or something. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up another issue for that, and we'll table that and look at it later. Maybe or maybe not even on the live stream, because I just want to make sure that I'm not using those. Let's see, I'm going to copy out this entire section of the migration. And I'll say, let's put this in the error message. Got error during field formatter settings migration about color box and text formatter list. And I'll say error during that. And during migrations, I often will do this kind of thing because this is a less important issue. The more important thing at this point, the more important thing at this point is to start working on theming and making sure that things look right and the content that is migrated is correct, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to shelve this for now, and we'll come back to that because there might be a few things that we need to do for that. What did it do when I just did this migration? It said 0 created. So it's funny, it's saying 0 items, but I think it should say that it processed 30 items again, but maybe it doesn't process the item if it says it already imported it. I don't know. But I thought that's what it used to do, at least back in the last migration I did 3 or 4 years ago. Anyway, so we'll shelve that for now. I'm going to shelve this for now and see if my local host now has some content in it since I did that migration. And it's interesting. Home now has a view, edit, delete button, view, edit, delete. So this is a node and the home page looks like it's working. So that's actually kind of nice. If I edit this, it should bring up a rather sparse editor. Things look really interesting when you have no formatting at all in the Stark theme or whatever theme this is. That's fun too. Missing filter. All text is removed. So I guess Markdown, I probably should install and enable the Markdown module so that text can be migrated, because I'm guessing, whoops, if I go to administration and then content, I'm guessing all my blog posts are going to be empty at this point, which is not a fun thing. We'll see what happens. All right, and thanks for everyone, by the way, saying that everything sounds good. And hello from Belgium too. Well, not from Belgium, I'm in St. Louis, as you can see by my shirt. Today, on St. Louis Blues hockey days, it's hockey season right now, and we're having an awesome year after winning the Stanley Cup last year. So on Blues hockey days, I will typically wear one of a variety of St. Louis Blues shirts in celebration. So it looks like we have the blog post, so that's good, but I'm guessing they're all going to be empty text. So let me go ahead and go to one of these. Let's see what it has. It preserves the path, so that's good, but yeah, there's no text in the blog post, and that's no good. If I edit it, it'll probably have that same warning message here. Oh, it does have a body, so that's nice, although all these settings are a little wonky. So it has a body field, it has Markdown, but since the filter's missing, it removes the text. Let me see. I'm going to try just really quick, Markdown Drupal. I'm going to see if it has a Drupal 8. I think we did mention in the first episode it has a Drupal 8 release. I'm going to see if I can install it, and if installing it is enough to just make it work. I wonder what the difference is with 2 and 1. 8.x, 1.3, I guess I'll just install that. But if I go to here, this page, since I'm using Composer, I can't just download the file, but I'm going to require it with Composer. And I'm going to get there soon. So I'm going to require this module with Composer. It should add it to the composer.json and composer.lock file. So it should say in here already, I guess it's just taking its time because we're doing this live stream. It should pop it into here. There it is, Drupal Markdown. And then now it's going to resolve all the Markdown dependencies and then put it into the composer.lock file. And also, just to be thorough, I'm going to go ahead and add an issue for this. Add Markdown module to new site. Migration migrates all the body field text for my blog posts, but the text isn't rendering right now because there's no Markdown input format. And then also, to be thorough, I don't do this all the time on my personal projects, but especially for a team-based project, I like to make sure if you're using Jira or GitHub or Trello or whatever kind of system you're using to track tasks, I always like to put in here just for historic reason. And also, if I need to do the same thing on another site, I like to put in here what I did to fix it in addition to referring to it in my code when I commit it. So I'm going to say installed or added the module to my code base using that. And then I'll also put note there was a 2.x branch on Drupal.org, but since it wasn't stable, I didn't use it. That's fun, the composer thing. I forget what I think it's composer memory limit equals -1. And try this again. It's been kind of annoying in the past month or so. Every composer command you run with a Drupal code base all of a sudden is running into the 1.5 gigabyte of RAM memory limit. I should probably just add this to my bash aliases. So if I have, on my computer, I have, what is it? ZSHRC is the file. And I have some shortcuts in here that help me with various tasks that I do. I'm going to tell allow composer to use almost as much RAM as Chrome. And I should do an export for that. All right, so now anytime I open a new terminal window, it'll have this set so that hopefully we don't run into that again. Because as they say, like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, I need more RAM, something along those lines. All right, and actually all my dot files, Geerling guy dot files, that file as well as all my other dot files, configuration for my computer, I store in my dot files repository if you ever want to take a look at how I configure my computer. So there's a ZSHRC. And while it's doing this, might as well go into dot files. Make sure that's the only, oh, there's a few other changes. Oh, wow, I haven't committed these changes in a while. Some prompt updates and add composer memory limit setting. So I'm going to push that up and git pull dash rebase because I didn't do that first. Git push. Okay, and get out of here. So now if you want to see what I did there, it's in this file, composer memory limit. Anyway, little aside, this is not fun. What is it saying? Could not delete this. That is annoying. It's just because the permissions on here are set so that it can't delete it. So I'm going to say, I'll just go to that file, web sites, default services. I'll make sure that it has settings, or it has permissions to be able to edit it. So I can read and write that. It must be the default folder. Yeah. Read and write. Let's try this again. This can be quite annoying sometimes. Because what happens is it writes this file, then Drupal sets the permissions so that you can't write to this default folder. And then Composer tries writing over that file, but I don't have permission because the default folder is restricted. So it's kind of an unending loop of permissions issues. So I'm trying this again. Just trying to install a module, that's all I'm doing. We'll see if it works this time. And also, this time I'm also going to install the module using Drush, just because that's a little bit, where's my README? That's a little bit more Drupal-y and automatable and everything, instead of logging into the, or going into the interface and enabling it that way. So I'll copy out this command so that I can just paste it in here instead of typing it. If this ever would finish, that'd be nice. While that's going on, since it could be a while, I'm also going to run through, so I did a couple things before starting today. I made sure the migration ran as far as it could. We'll have to run it again to keep going past that formatter issue that we found earlier. I also set up a separate MySQL instance. What I was doing was I used a Drupal VM Docker image to run MySQL for the migration. The migration can be kind of heavy on the database, the read database where it's pulling the data from, because it's reading through a lot of data really quickly. So I set up a separate MySQL instance that's in this folder here, Drupal 7DB, and it's basically a MySQL Docker container, and I imported the database to it. So I did that to make things a little easier, and also so I don't have to have a full instance of Drupal VM running locally. And I want to enable the toolbar module just because I noticed as I'm clicking around, it's harder to get places because you got to click administration and then know where you're going. And then also, I think today I'd like to get this GitHub Actions PR working, since it looks like GitHub's still up. And the goal for today is to keep running the migration, get that content all there so that I can start theming, which it looks like we're to that point where we might be able to start getting a little bit of the theme together. It looks like this installed, so I'm going to try installing the module. Is it module install? Let me see, drush. I'm forgetting all of these drush commands just because it's been a year or so before I've done any heavy Drupal work besides doing updates and clearing caches, which is easy enough to do. Drush module. Is there a module install? Cache, config, core, image, migrate, PHP. Apparently there's no way to install a module with drush. Does any, in the comments, if anybody knows the command to do that, I'm not seeing any. Oh, PM. I don't know why, I guess project manage. I don't know why that hasn't been aliased to a module ever. So we'll do PM enable, which is EN is the shortcut. So drush, PM enable, and I'm guessing somebody in the comments is going to put this as I'm talking, but since there's like a 25-second delay, I'll look silly because I will act like I found it myself and the comment will pop in there right as I'm finding it out. So thank you to whoever comments that and proves me wrong. PM enable, what was that? What did I just set up? What's the new module? Markdown. And we'll see if that works. And once I enable the module, I also want to re-export the configuration, which is drush config export. I'm going to do that so that when I reinstall the site, it has that module already installed. What's it doing? I can see the CPU working overtime here. The poor thing. You can see that OBS, the compression, the software that does the rendering of the screen and my little face in the bottom corner, I have it set to like all the lowest settings and it still is eating up CPU. All right, so it enabled the Markdown module, and I'm also going to export the configuration. While I'm doing that, I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to see if this renders now, this page, since the Markdown module is enabled. So far, no rendering there. If I edit it, will it say that same error message here? It says missing filter still. I don't like that because I just enabled the filter. Maybe I need to clear caches. I thought that doing a PM enable actually cleared caches as well as part of the process, but we'll see if this works. Drush CR is cache rebuild. I think it's cache rebuild. But that's one of the few ones that I will say drush CR just because it's a lot quicker to type. So I did export the configuration, and there's now Markdown module settings and core.extension is the installed modules on the site. The thing is, I hope that this is not the case, but I wonder if I have to re-import everything now that the Markdown module is installed. That would be really annoying. But we'll see if clearing the caches fixes this. Or another thing is when I migrated this filter, you know what that could be? Let me go way back up here to one of the migrations. That could have been this. When I did the migration, it tried to migrate that filter and it didn't migrate it. So since there's no filter, it's not gonna work at all. So I could try, let's just see if this works. I don't think it will because that filter didn't get migrated. This is all the fun of doing a Drupal migration is you end up, like the first time you do it, there's like 24 issues and you fix 3 or 4 and then there's 2 more new ones. And it's kind of like, is it Hydra, the monster that has many heads, and you cut it off and another 2 spring up from there. So as we fix all these issues, other issues come to the surface that we didn't even think about before. So it looks like that's still happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rerun this migration. Which one is it? Oh, here, filter format. I'm going to rerun this migration and see if it migrates at least one of these 2. I don't know which of these 2 filters. I think one of them is plain text that it didn't migrate. I was reading that in issue queues in Drupal.org when I searched this particular error message. So I'm going to say, go back up to, where's migrate import, and I'm going to do that migration, the filter format, and see if that migrates across the Markdown filter, since the Markdown module is now present on the site. We'll see. So far, no. CPU is still going crazy. All right. And it didn't create anything. So that's kind of annoying. It looks like I will have to redo the migrations just to get that Markdown format. What I'm going to do really quick is check. Actually, before I do anything, I'm going to say git add, and then where's this this issue? Git commit -m fixes number 13, add Markdown module to new site. Git push. All right, so I added the Markdown module using Composer, then I installed it, and now there's some new settings available. And that issue is closed since I pushed that commit. And at this point, what I'll do is I'll probably end up rerunning the migrations outside of the live stream just because they take forever. And then we can get back to this particular issue later. And that way we can keep moving on and do some other things today. But the first thing I'll do is, I mentioned in here, enable the toolbar module. It's just annoying. If I'm on the site and I want to get to an admin area like content or whatever, I have to go to administration and then click on something else. So I'm just going to enable the toolbar module here, which is a good usability win that I think it was added in Drupal 7, and then in Drupal 8, not too much changed. There's also admin toolbar, I think, which is nice for giving you drop-down menus. If I enable that, I think it also requires the breakdown. It breaks down the site. It enables the breakpoint module, which it'll probably pop a warning about that. And once I install it again, anytime I install a new module or upgrade a module, I have to rerun the config export so that when I reinstall the site, it's all there. Otherwise, I'd have to do all this work again every single time that I came back and started a live stream, which would be absolutely insane. And by, oh, Jason is mentioning, did you run update with that migration? No, I didn't. So that could actually be why it didn't pick up any new stuff, or it didn't re-migrate something that it marked as migrated. So I'll try that in just a minute. Thank you for mentioning that, Jason. I completely forgot that migrate doesn't redo something once it's already done. I guess even if it failed or ignored it or skipped it. So I'll try that in a second. So now we have the toolbar module, and I can just get around the site a little bit quicker. So now that I did that, I'm also going to, whoops, that's the migration. I'm going to export the configuration and then commit that, the two new enabled modules to the code base so that they're enabled whenever I reinstall the site. If this would ever finish. I do wonder, maybe, I don't know how I'll choose, but I'm wondering if maybe I should use ddev or even Drupal VM or something just to make this, all the Composer stuff a little bit quicker, since it doesn't have to write to the shared file system using Docker for Mac. Git status, make sure, okay, git add -a. GCAM is my shortcut for git commit -a-m. And so it's git commit -m is basically what I'm trying to do. Add toolbar and breakpoint modules. Git push. Okay, so we did that. I explained that. We've run the migration again. I'll have to do that again later. And I'm going to run this with update. Where was it? Drush. Where are we? Update and then -- update. Let's see if that does it. waiting. If you need something to take your mind off of coronavirus, as I mentioned in the Drupal Reddit post, doing a Drupal migration will quickly take your mind off that because you'll be frustrated with many other things. So it says 5 updated, but I'm still getting 2 of these messages. I don't like the fact that I'm still getting 2 of these messages. Let me go to configuration. I'm just going to take a look really quick, but if this is an annoying long process to figure this out, I might take this offline off the oh man, I'm using these words that I learned from all my consulting days. I might take this after the live stream and take a look at it. So text formats, and see, it has Markdown on here. Configure. I wonder if I just need to go in here and resave it. Let's see, Markdown. Let me check on my Drupal 7 site what I have. jeffgeerling.com. Configuration. What is that under? System? No. Content authoring? Yeah, text formats. Markdown. Configure. So it has code filter, which I don't have on here because I don't have that module, and Markdown. All right. So we got code filter and Markdown. I'm going to save this Markdown library. Oh, I didn't know that's an option. Let me see. Let me see what I have it set to in here. Text formats, Markdown. Markdown is using the PHP Markdown library. So I'll keep it like that just because, as I mentioned at the beginning of the series, I'm trying to do a 1-for-1 migration. Common Mark might be a little nicer because I do use some Markdown extensions and things that PHP Markdown might not support. But for now, I'm just keeping it 1-for-1. I don't want any surprises. So now that I did that, I can go back and see if the content is showing. But Jason's suggestion was nice in that it did redo this migration, but it looks like it still didn't pick up the changes for that migration. Maybe it's a particular issue with the Markdown filter. I don't know. But let's go back here and see if it renders now. Yeah, so that is rendering. The links work. So it looks like it is using the correct thing. And obviously this is pretty ugly, although it's, there's something to be said for the sparseness of it. Like, this is kind of annoying, and member 4 means nothing to me. I still am amazed that is in Drupal core. It's not really that useful, in my opinion, to have that be a default thing on published content. Anyway, but you can read this whole site because there's a title, there's author information and date, and then there's the post. And there should be comments down here. I don't know if the comments migrated or not. I'll check that really quick just because I wonder. Is it under structure? Oh, it's under content, but it's under comments. Let's see if those migrated across. It's taken a while, so maybe they did. They did. All right. Well, let's see if they're rendering. If they're rendering, then that's also good news because I can theme them. They are. Okay, so this is nice. Although it's weird. Submitted by Jeff Geerling. I guess that was, I'm confusing myself because of all this extra metadata that's throwing onto each comment. But it looks like the comments are rendering correctly, and we can start theming those as well. So we have some stuff here that we can start theming, which is nice. And we're possibly going to get to that today. If we don't, we'll get to it next stream, and that might be the majority of the stream. But I also wanted to finish this GitHub Actions PR because I want to make it so that no matter what things I'm changing, like whenever I enable a new module or I change the migration or something like that, I want to make sure that the site can still be installed, because notice that I haven't reinstalled the site during this entire live stream. Generally, when I'm doing a migration process, I'll reinstall the site pretty frequently. And if that breaks at some point, I want GitHub to be able to tell me right away, like, oh, this commit broke your install. Like enabling this module actually breaks the ability to reinstall the site. And that's pretty important because if I break the ability to install the site, I'll have to do a lot of work to figure out what broke it and how to unbreak it. But if I know exactly what commit did it, I can say, oh, enabling this particular module broke that. So I want to at least get the site installing in GitHub. And so I already have this branch open. It's the GitHub Actions branch. I'm going to say git status and see if there's anything else. Okay, so there's nothing in the master branch that's being worked on. And I can say git checkout GitHub Actions. Okay, and then I'm going to git rebase this branch because we worked on GitHub Actions last week, it looks like. And I haven't made any, I've made a bunch of changes to the master branch, but I haven't made those changes on the GitHub branch. So I'm going to rebase it so it takes all those changes from master and then re-puts all the GitHub Actions work we did on top of the master branch. So git rebase master and git push -- force. Now, again, you shouldn't really use force for a git push that often, but when you're working on a pull request on GitHub or whatever git system you're using, and you're rebasing things on another branch over time because you're working on it and you want to make sure that you have the latest information from the main branch, it's okay to do the git push force. And so I'm going to do that, and let's see what fails here. If I refresh this, it should come in here. Okay, so it did the force push. Here comes the run. And we should be able to see what it does. Now, remember from last week, we added a .github directory with workflows, and then this is the CI workflow. For long term, if this was a bigger project with a team and things, you could actually have a workflow for CI just to make sure things install. You could have a workflow that actually runs a migration. If you have a sanitized copy of the database in your code base, you could do that. You could adapt it, and we might get into this, might not. I don't want to do this until we have more stuff to work with, but you could add bhat tests so that you could test the front end of the site and make sure that things actually work the way that you expect them to. For a site like jeffgeerling.com, it's a really simple site, and it also isn't like, it's actually the most visited site that I maintain, so it is important to me, but it's also not something that's going to lose $1 million if it goes down for a few minutes after I push some code changes. So it's not as critical to me to have every aspect of the front end tested. But I probably would want to make sure the homepage is loading, the blog page loads, test posting a blog post and make sure that works, something like that. So I might at some point get into writing some bhat tests for that. So this is setting up the Docker container for the site. That'll take a little while, probably a couple minutes. And then let's see what else it does. So this is building the container, then it's going to start the environment. And you probably can't see that because it's behind my head, so let me move this over. This is that GitHub workflow. And what it does is it takes these titles for each task. And this is very similar to the way that Ansible works too. It takes the title for each task and it puts it into a section here. So you can see I had checkout code, and that's one of the sections here, checkout code, and it shows what it's doing. It's checking out the GitHub, or the Git code from GitHub. And now it's on the build container step, so it's almost finished with that. And then it's going to start the Docker environment and then try installing Drupal. So let's see if that works. Now it's starting the Docker environment. No, it's not yet. It's still changing ownership of this data. I'm going to take a drink while it's doing that. All right, so it's installing and it had an error. Let's see what this error message was. Oh, so apparently MySQL is already running. So what I'm going to do is look up first to be thorough, I'm going to copy this out. And where's my, I'm going to go back to the PR, and I'm going to put a comment here. Getting that error message. And I'm guessing that there's a way to tell GitHub Actions don't run MySQL. I don't want MySQL running in my GitHub Actions. GitHub Actions. What I want to do is disable MySQL in GitHub Actions. It seems like it's installed by default. Or maybe, I wonder if this PHP, because you wouldn't think like, I don't think, it's kind of silly that MySQL would be running in GitHub Actions by default. So I wonder if this particular task is causing MySQL to be started. I'm going to search for it here. MySQL. So what's weird is it has examples with it, but it doesn't say that it's enabled by default. But I'm going to look at this really quick. So it has services under, what is this? I don't even have services defined. I'm guessing that these like services is just Docker containers, and I don't want any Docker containers running as part of that. It has that. Okay. But I don't want to have a MySQL database running, and it looks like that's what's happening. So it says address already in use. So I'm going to search for this. Find address already in use. GitHub Actions. Set up MySQL. Yeah, so here's a few different things that we got. Docker PSA. Okay, so MySQL is installed on the Ubuntu runner. Make sure that default, oh, that's annoying. So it's funny, like GitHub Actions, part of the whole thing about it was it's supposed to be like this new fancy thing that's easy to use and you can drop your Docker containers into it. But it looks like just like Travis CI, I'm guessing partly because they based the feature set on Travis CI, it still is running MySQL as a service on, it's running MySQL as a service on the actual runner, which is annoying and kind of silly, but whatever. So we'll do that. We need to shut down. We'll do that up here. And we'll say stop the GitHub Actions MySQL instance. Okay, so that should kill MySQL on there. And then I also mentioned in the initial thing that, so this is going to start the Docker environment, which it should come up pretty good now since MySQL is not going to be running. But we're going to need to add a pause in here because MySQL is going to take maybe 60 seconds or so to start up and initialize its database before we can do the Drupal installation. So I wonder in GitHub Actions, check for port, or wait until port available or something like that. I want to see if there's an intelligent way to do this. Wait port. You could do something like that, but otherwise we can just do a pause. Let's see. No, I don't want to install npm on here. Using my SQL service, that's okay, but we don't want to do that. All right, well, I'm just going to add a pause. Add pause to GitHub Actions. Wait, sleep. All right. All right, I'm going to go ahead and, yeah, it's a little scary using something with only 9 stars on it. Instead of doing that, to add, so here's my concern. When you're doing something like setting up CI, you have your entire code base in here. So any action that you use, so even the setup PHP, which seems to be a little more widely used and tested, what happens is this thing could be running a Docker container or some code or anything that could potentially do something like grab your code and upload it to somewhere. You know, it's probably not doing that, and you can probably monitor things a little better, and maybe GitHub has some things in place for it. But you basically have to trust any of these kind of things that you use in your CI. And it's not that I don't trust this. Like let's see, who is the maintainer is Jake Jarvis, and you know, he looks like somebody who would probably be pretty trustworthy. He runs a lot of different GitHub projects and all that. And, you know, same thing can be applied to me from anyone else looking at my stuff. But the problem is that I just want to pause for like 60 seconds. And so I don't want to use someone else's project just to do that. So what I'll do is just run a sleep command. Pause for 1 minute while MySQL starts. And so I'll say run, I think it's sleep 60. Let's test that, sleep 5, yeah. So sleep and then 60 seconds. By default, it uses an integer value for seconds for the sleep command. So I'll do that, and let's go ahead and make sure that that's all the changes. That is git add -a, git commit -m. And this is for issue number 9. Sleep to, let's say, make sure GitHub Actions MySQL is stopped, and pause and allow our MySQL to start correctly. Git push. All right. Oh, Philip is mentioning something I totally missed when I was reading through those posts, and that is actually a good idea. So I could do a run. So I'll paste this in over here. Instead of the pause command, I could do something like this. And that was from the fire fart post. Things you don't think that she'll be talking about, fire farts. I do have Crohn's disease, so I know a lot about different kinds of, I'm not going to go there, but anyway, let's see, fire fart. So he did have this guy here. So we can actually do that. So MySQL admin ping. The only thing is I wonder, so it probably does have MySQL admin on the host, since it does have MySQL. So this could work. What I'm going to do is I'll let this action, let me go back to the pull request. I'll let this run while we're doing this just to make sure everything else works. And if it does work, so it's building the container right now. If that does work, then this should just be an optimization, because right now this is going to wait 60 seconds no matter what. And it'd be nicer to say, wait until the service is ready, because it could be ready in 20 seconds. I don't know. So I'm going to paste that in. Ooh, let's try pasting it like that. There we go. So one quick note, if you notice, I just pasted this in and the formatting was all wonky. And I could sit there and tab, and the problem is with YAML, if you tab one thing the wrong level, then all of a sudden your whole script is messed up. So in Sublime Text and I'm totally blanking on the names of other editors. Sublime Text and most other editors, if you just hit Command V, it's going to paste it with all the formatting that was in this post, all the spacing. But if you hit Shift Command V, at least on the Mac, on the PC, it's like Shift Control V or Shift Alt. There's a key combo. If I hit Shift Command V, it actually pastes and intelligently sees the difference in indentation in my YAML file, and it works for most languages too, PHP and YAML and Ruby and whatever else. This is going to be port 3306. We're not going to have that change. I don't know. I mean, we could do quotes or not quotes. The host should be that, yeah. So wait for MySQL to start. So we'll add that. All right, just take out that extra line because I don't need the environment variable. I know I'm always going to be on port 3306 for this. So thank you, Philip, for mentioning that. All right, so this is doing its minute-long pause. We'll see. It's been doing it for 15 seconds, so we'll wait for that and see if it starts installing Drupal. And if it does that, then I'll commit this, push it up, and I think we'll be done with getting GitHub Actions to at least install Drupal. And if that works, we can merge this in, and then any future commit that we make will automatically run this because we have on any pull request and on any push to the master branch, it will run this CI workflow. And it's also going to start running it once I merge this in on a schedule every day, what is this, the sixth day, so Saturday or Sundays at midnight. Let's see, cron tab decoder. Okay, I don't always remember all these different things, so that's at 6. Wait, is that on every day? Minute, hour, oh, I have that every day. I don't want to run this every day. I don't want to take down GitHub's infrastructure running a thing on my personal site. So I'm going to do this on the first day. Oh, not the day of month, star, day of week, on Sunday. So at 0600 on Sunday, which would be, around midnight my time. So 06 star 7. So that should run it at 0600. Probably UTC is the time zone that GitHub Actions uses, and it'll just run it on Sundays instead of every day of the week. That also saves me, I think GitHub Actions gives you like 2,000 hours of credit. This didn't work, so that's annoying. The input device is not a TTY. Why? That shouldn't matter though. This should still work. Oh, you know what? Is it? It's probably trying to use these. There's no, what is it called? These, I don't have the environment set up. So the database password and host is going to be empty, and that will definitely cause some issues. So it's Drupal is the password, and host should be, what is the host? 127.0.0.1. That's probably the issue there. So git diff, that looks good. Git commit, and typically I wouldn't make all these changes in one commit. It'd be better to make this change in one commit for the cron change, make this in another, but in this case I know that I need to fix this anyway, and again, it's my personal project, so whatever. Git commit -a-m issue number 9, fix Drupal install and CI workflow, adjust schedule, push that up. Okay, and I'll go back here. It should pop in here. That's not right. It's already saying it failed. I must have done something bad on the schedule. Invalid cron attribute. Oh, that's annoying. GitHub Actions cron schedule weekly. I wonder what the syntax is for this. I'll go to the official documentation first. Oh, did I? No, I have it quoted. Day of the week. Yeah. This is not making sense. Why is this not a valid schedule? So minute 0, hour 6, star star, day of the week 6. I don't see why this is an invalid cron schedule. Let me look up, well, that's annoying. GitHub. 98% of life is looking up things on Google. You know what? Instead of battling it right now, I'm just going to go back to running it every day. Git commit -m back to normal cron schedule. And I'm also going to add an issue for that, and I'll probably fix that separately because that's kind of silly. Like that should work like this. I don't know why it's not. GitHub Actions giving when I try running cron schedule weekly. Not sure why it won't let me use that syntax. It is valid according to cron tab guru. Or did I? Oh, I closed that window. crontab.guru. All right, so I open up, and I just tripped on myself because I stepped on my shoe. So I open up an issue for that. I'll take a look at that later. But now this should be working, and it is. So that's another fun little aside. I don't know why that doesn't work. So it doesn't support the keywords. I don't know. I'm also going to add, I'm going to go to number 9. Let's see. Oops. I'm going to put this link in here. GitHub Actions documentation. Because according to the documentation, that should work. Oh, weeks are 0 to 6, and I have 7. Oh, yeah, that's right. Because it's, what is it? Martin Fowler, 2 hard things. So this is the quote that has to do with that. Actually, this is not, let's see. Here we go. There are 2 hard problems in computer science. Cache invalidation, which we all know is a hard problem in Drupal. Naming things, which is always fun because names of things are always terribly horrible. And off by 1 errors, which, you know, the reason that's funny is because he said there's 2 hard things and there's an off by 1 error. I had 2 hard things, and one of them is that there's 7 days in the week, but if it's 0 to 7 or 0 to 6, then that's 7 total days. So thank you again, Jason and Philip. So if I go to crontab. Whoops, I don't even know what I did. If I go to crontab.guru and I put in here, oh, that's not going to do anything. What is this? I don't need to do that for now. If I go here and put in, what was it, 0, 6, star, star. So I had 7. And the problem is that this is kind of loosely interpreting that as Sunday. But if I do 6, and that's saying it's Saturday. I don't understand. 5, if I do 0, oh, 0 is Sunday. Okay, so never mind. Yeah, and you guys are probably laughing at me while I'm doing this, but that is that's the fun of a live stream. So 0 is Sunday, 1 is Monday. I was totally I don't know why my brain was thinking that Sunday was the last day of the week. I don't even know if there is a time system where that's the case. But this should be the cron syntax. So I'll go ahead and fix that in here. Fixes number, what was that? Oh, and that failed. What failed this time? Install Drupal. The input device is not a TTY, so that was not the issue. Since we're at 11 o'clock, I'm probably going to drop this. I'm guessing there's a command I need to, or a flag I need to pass to Drush, or there's some formatting issue, maybe with quoting. I don't think the quotes are an issue here. But something is causing this to fail inside of GitHub Actions. It shouldn't be failing. I can't see a reason why it is. But I'll fix that outside the live stream. And I'll also push up this fix. Thank you for showing me how obviously silly I was to be putting in a 7. I mean, it's not too silly, but it is silly to think that Sunday is the 7th day of the week, because that's just not the case. I guess if you're starting from Monday, if you start your week on a business day, but still that's kind of crazy. So I'll fix that. I'll get this running. And next week we'll dive into coming back here and making this look a lot more like this with theming, using Drupal Twig and converting that old Drupal 7 theme into a Drupal 8 theme. And I still haven't decided exactly how I'll do that. I think next week we'll start doing it by kind of copying and pasting the CSS and then meshing things around. And we'll see if that approach works. If it doesn't, then we might have to like work on a new style guide, a new theme altogether. But as I said, I want to do this one for one. I want to get everything from my Drupal 7 site into Drupal 8 the same. And then in the future, I can make changes and improvements like adding the media module and stuff like that. But since it's 11 o'clock, since it's been an hour, I am going to sign off for the week, and I'll get that GitHub Actions thing figured out. And then we'll go over what that was next week. It's probably something really simple, but you never know. Or I could spend 3 or 4 hours on it. We'll see. And I will talk to everybody next week who can join. Again, if you want to make sure that you don't miss one of these, right below me there's a subscribe button, at least in most GitHub, or not GitHub, most YouTube viewing applications. So you can hit that subscribe button, and then that will also help me make like an extra half penny every month. So instead of making like $5 a month, I could make $5 and a penny. And if you hit the notification thing, and people are always in YouTube videos are like, oh, hit the notification bell. I don't do that, and I don't recommend doing that. But if you want to do it, that's great. I guess that'll send you a notification or something. But thank you for watching. All of the videos in this series are up on my blog. There's a link in the description below here that has that blog post. And if you want to support me on Patreon or on GitHub, I'm on GitHub for GitHub sponsors. That'd be amazing. That way, instead of making a penny a month off of your subscription, I could make like $2 and maybe get like a water bottle or something. I don't know. But thank you for watching. I will see you next week, again at 10 a.m. Central, 4 p.m. UTC on Tuesday. Now I need to find out where that end stream button is. Okay, here we are.